Hello everyone, my name is Lizzie O'Shea. I'm a lawyer by training. I'm also an author, but I'm here in my capacity as chair of Digital Rights Watch, which is an advocacy organisation that seeks to build a world in which human rights are respected online. I want to talk to you about how you make change and share a few lessons that we've learned as advocates in what makes a successful strategy for convincing others to come with you. The first lesson I think that's worth remembering is find your allies. Both the usual suspects, but also the unexpected friends. The usual suspects are those people who share your passion, who understand what you're trying to do and are on board. You might need to get on the same page in terms of strategy and tactics, but you know you can trust them. On the other side, we have unusual friends who might need to be convinced or might just be waiting to be asked for their support. With a little bit of extra effort and integrity in your mission, you can turn this into a huge source of new friends and allies to build your campaign for change. I think it's really important to find those unusual friends, even if it takes a bit of extra effort, because it can mean that your coalition overall is much stronger and you surprise your adversaries as to how you might be able to convince people to change their way of thinking. We have this example in the digital rights space of this occurring. So I can convince lots of people who are involved in tech policy as to why privacy reform is really important. Technologists understand it, computer scientists, engineers, they understand these policy issues and they see the benefit of improving our privacy laws. But on the other side of the ledger, I know there's a lot of parents, for example, who are really concerned about how much data is being collected about their children and being shared over the course of their lifetime for all sorts of purposes that weren't originally intended. So I want to recruit those parents to say, you don't need to be an expert in privacy reform to understand why it needs to happen. You don't need to be a computer scientist either to get that you're concerned about how much information is being taken about your children and used in ways that you didn't intend. I can talk to parents, I can convince them that this privacy reform project is really important. And in doing so, you get access to whole new sets of people who might otherwise be uninterested in the topic, whether that's everyday parents of children or also organisations and advocates who have spent a long time in that space who can join the dots between privacy reform and the interests of children. So I think finding those allies is a really critical part of building a campaign for change. The second one that I think is really important is tailoring your message. Now, sometimes I'm trying to convince people that I have a really big carrot, and sometimes I'm trying to convince them that I'm holding a really big stick. Sometimes I want people to know that I've really studied this topic, I've got extensive expertise, I know what I'm talking about. And other times I want to give really busy people just 3 dot points that they can take with them on their day. The audience that we're talking to is never a monolith. It involves lots of different sets of people who might respond differently to different types of messaging. I'm sure I don't need to tell you that storytelling is a really powerful way of getting your point across, of convincing people to change their behaviour. But I think it's how you format that story. It becomes very important when you're talking to a diverse audience. So when I give evidence before a Senate committee or when I talk to a minister or the Attorney General, I want them to know that I've studied this topic, that I've read the draft legislation, that I know what international best practice looks like, and I want to make that clear to them so that then they can trust that I know what I'm talking about when I deliver a message about recommendations for reform. But on the other side of that ledger, I want to make it really easy for everyday people who might not have that experience and expertise to trust me that if they take a small bit of action, it will have an impact, it will make a difference. So that involves drafting a petition maybe, or an open letter that is really clear, that is accurate, but it's also compelling and simple. And it convinces people that if you trust me, that your actions will make a difference. That means that they're more prepared, I think, to give you their time and energy. So that doesn't mean that you lie to them or that you tell them that something that's not true or lacking nuance. It's getting that storytelling format right, which instills both a trust in you as an advocate, but also makes sure that you meet the audience where they're at. And the last thing I would say is that failure is always a prerequisite to success. There are so many great stories out there of individuals or organizations or movements that have managed to be spectacularly successful. But usually what predates that is a huge amount of hard work and lots of setbacks. Convincing people to change their behavior actually takes a huge amount of patience and resilience. And so that means, I think, when something doesn't go to plan, you have to understand that you're disappointed, but then put that disappointment to one side and work out how you're going to respond to that next. How can you use that disappointment, that failure, to inform your advocacy for future endeavors that might lead to success? And without that, I think it would be very easy to get bitter or resentful or tired and exhausted. So making sure you've put in the effort to be ready to deal with those failures, and that over time you can turn them into successes, but not necessarily worry too much along the way. There's a huge amount of success waiting for you, but being patient, persistent, and repetitive is often a key to arriving at that point. And so there's no shame in making a mistake or having a failure. It's how you respond to it that's critical. Hopefully that's useful, and good luck in your campaigns for change.